Level 2, Pipe Dreams. Class 3, Unsafe, Unsecure, Low Entity Count. Level 2, once regarded as being one of the main levels of the Backrooms, is an infinite array of complex yet Euclidean maintenance tunnels that range in size and once had a variety of uses. Description: Level 2's physical layout, while complicated, has certain commonalities in its design, which allows it to be mapped and understood. The tunnels themselves, despite following no strict flow on how they are structured, all contort at strictly 45-degree angles, and the rough length of the hallways has always measured to appropriate multiples of 5 when measuring in the metric system, only when rounded up to the nearest whole number, with occasional errors from lack of equipment in the early days of experimenting with Level 2. The various tunnels are also usually rather tight and narrow, either because of the original dimensions of the tunnels, which sometimes barely fit with those larger builds from shoulder to shoulder, or by the machinery, wiring, and other industrial equipment strung up along the walls and ceilings. The walls are built of withered, dirty concrete, or even bricks in areas, the latter of which usually in muddy, brown, or brick or black hues. The texture of all wall surfaces are somewhat chalky, regardless of the material and the wall itself, which usually leaves powdery residue on one's fingers if touched or rubbed across. In extremely tight corridors, this even leaves marks and stains on clothing, or occasional bruises on skin. In the majority of hallways, however, the chalky and tattered walls are obstructed by imposing, rarely operational machinery that usually covers one or both walls from floor to ceiling. These pipes and machines, whilst being identified in various actual types of machines from former engineers and developed eras of the MEG, do not work in tandem with one another. Instead, each of these industrial appliances are placed in arbitrary locations across Level 2, and do little more than connect to one another with piping and working electricity. In the modern era, these machines usually create little more than quiet internal wearing noises, as if the machines are faulty. Additionally, each machine is usually connected by long, thick pipes that transfer fluids, electricity, gases, or even solid objects on surprise occasions. Whilst piping and odd machinery are an ever-abundant sight, similarly, industrial handheld equipment is scattered across various halls. Flatbed trolleys are one such common appearance, which usually possesses items such as miscellaneous machine parts, oil drum barrels, usually filled with liquids like water, oil, and an anomalous corrosive goo, almond water, and its opposite, cashew water, memory juice, liquid silence, maiden's ink, and lucky old milk, and metal, cardboard, and wooden boxes, often chocked full of livable materials. In addition, scraps of paper, old tools, and shattered glass from old light bulbs also cover the level's floor in random areas, usually without much rhyme or reason. Other miscellaneous and unremarkable objects include the following: toolboxes, wood piles, dismantled machine pieces, rusted pipes, step ladders, large extension cords, power tools, and fold-out chairs. Level 2 is lit predominantly by buzzing fluorescent lights similar to that found in various levels between level 0 and level 4. These lights, while sparser than the lights of level 0, still coat in a predominant portion of level in industrial white or orange hues. The wiring for these lights is more than often not exposed. However, they are still usually insulated via plastic or rubber, which usually has led to various groups harvesting the level's copper and occasionally even in the fixtures themselves. In addition, the lighting in level 2 is not even distributed, often leaving times in areas in darkness. Due to the exposed nature of the wiring, and due to the fact areas of level 2 seem to be wired in these series circuits instead of parallel ones, meaning that each light lay on the same wire instead of each leaving power on a different wire, it is extremely easy for the wiring inside lighting to be disrupted. This can happen for a myriad of reasons, ranging from accidental, purposeful espionage, and even entity interference. Regardless of intent, however, if one light or wire is damaged for any of these reasons, all lights within a set space will immediately deactivate, plunging a local area of level 2 into darkness. The affected areas after the destruction of set lights is virtually arbitrary, as there are no easily identifiable signifiers to determine what sections of level 2 are wired up to which areas of circuitry, and testing to figure out such things would be a fruitless affair. However, from what few times it has intentionally been done, anywhere from a rough 3x3 to a 6x6 grid of lights will deactivate. Breaking into light does not deactivate the around area itself, and simply deactivates the series circuit of light attached to. Thus, narrow corridors, thick machinery, and various industrial pops take up a majority of the Level 2's landscape. The walls coated with wires and pipes of machinery, and that contain doors in various colors, materials, sizes, and types. The default design for these doors are usually of steel construction that swivels inwards and whatever lays on the other side of the room, which is detailed further in this text, as well as usually being painted in various shades of white, gray, and cream. More often than not, these doors often contain various amounts of additional decoration on top of them, usually in the forms of patterns like embossed or debossed squares, locks, signs. Usually these signs will denote warnings about machinery or piping. Do not enter these warnings. Do not enter warnings, flood warnings, or general industrial jargon. Though, what is written on these signs seldom correlates to what is on the other end. Spray painted symbols, windows, or even damage to their main structure. It is unknown how many of these are generated by the level itself, or if some of these are created via humans or other sentient entities. Normally, a large majority of these doors will be locked, regardless of what may be visible through the windows on the opposite end. For the doors that aren't locked, these doors don't lead to other levels. They usually just lead to a variety of different possibilities, some of those being sprawling complexes of hallways and rooms of various sizes, which usually contain larger industrial equipment, dozens of wooden boxes filled with the same supplies as the ones in the halls, an abundance of large PCs, or more commonly, empty atrium-sized packing warehouses. These areas usually connect to every single door inside the square that you're built in, but only a select few of these will actually be open. These rooms are the most commonly used by groups that used to inhabit Level 2, and are still used relatively frequently by modern groups to quickly access the internet. It is believed that these rooms would later be terraformed into office space EL3A. However, no surviving records exist to confirm or deny that terraforming took place. A long hallway, or oftentimes a multitude of hallways that all loop back around the same door the one came from. These hallways, more often than not, are completely devoid of any sort of decoration, and then fluorescent and incandescent light bulbs, and also resemble office hallways rather than industrial ones. A singular room of varying size, usually just a simple square or rectangle shape. A select few rare rooms possess a compound-shaped design. These are usually nothing more than two squares or rectangles attached to one another. These rooms can usually contain any items in furniture mentioned in the first bullet point, though more often than not, they are completely unfurnished. It is also believed that one of these varieties of rooms later went on to be office space EL3A's construction. For a large majority of specifically locked doors, and for even fewer amounts of windows built into them, the views onto the other side of these doors will be at an entirely black void. In most cases, this form of the rail is absolutely inaccessible to the doorway, to enter it being in a permanently locked state. However, especially in the more recent years, during the heavy industrialization of Level 2, certain doors have been previously unlocked to voids that have been unlocked. The area inside these voids is infinitely long space, and disregards the exterior dimensions and the hallways of light themselves. These spaces are devoid of sound and light, meaning that the only source of illumination comes from the doorway itself, which sits in the middle of the void as the only way to return. It is extremely easy to get lost in piercing infinite lightless voids, and entering them is not recommended. Bases, outposts, and communities. Level 2, for hundreds of years, has acted somewhat as a nexus for various groups to converge in one common area. Its landscape for many groups is a decent area to attempt settling due to its hub-like nature to many different levels, many of which had food and water, and the fact that many people enter Level 2 straight from the front rooms. The latter most reason has been often calling for more charitable groups of the Backrooms to set up bases, signs, and send out volunteers to pick up the new wonders, acclimate to the new permanent way of life. Level 2 has been a home for far too many groups over the years to count every single catalog group, from the smallest ragtag group of people to the largest industrial monopolies, so such as the only important noteworthy groups have been listed. The Machina. With the exception of the Lost, who previously resided in Level 2 countless centuries ago, the Machina are one of the earliest catalog settlers of Level 2, initially starting as simple animalistic entity race that late as 1000 BC. The Machinas progressively evolved to develop sentience, and to move beyond their simple instincts. From this, the Machina began to spread to and inhabit various levels across the Backrooms. their occupations of the level that predated the Lost. If their primary data is believed, and mostly important to this article, their main home was on level 2. Level 2 was in many ways a perfect home base for the Machina to aid in surviving the harsh conditions of the Backrooms. As well as to boost their own thinking capacity, the Machina began to build cybernetic enhancements and inform their somewhat bulky armor. That was pivotal to certain elements of their culture. To create these suits, which are detailed in far greater detail in their main article, they stripped large portions of Level 2's machinery and heavily repurposed them for their own needs. Although the Machina would have certainly had at some point, a definite location for a capital city of some variety which never been truly pinpointed. A severely large, abandoned city near the exit of Level 811 had been discovered in recent years. This town was the first instance of Level 811 being discovered, which could have once been the main city for the Machina, though without any primary sources on the subject discovered it is ultimately impossible to know. The Machina, as well as gutting the wall of all of its piping and machinery, would actually build their actual residencies inside the rooms in areas that would be behind the doors. Should the doors have been unlocked, the insides of the useful mechanics they had by the group, which would have subsequently been recycled into their furniture, metal exoskeletons, and the rudimentary weapons where the materials were only scrap-worthy. The ultimate downfall of the Machina was due to their resource draining of Level 2 itself. Whilst humans in the present day are experiencing a similar issue, the Machina's experience of a resource drought was far more pressing matter due to their technology, having developed only rely on materials that level gave. Quickly, the Machina's population began to drastically dwindle over the course of a mere 30 years. The Machina's headcount had dropped to double digits over the various bases across the Backrooms, and to this day, not a single Machina has been witnessed approximately from 1850. The time frame of 1850 only varies between historical evidences, but only from the general timescales one chooses to follow. For ease of simplicity, the last date a Machina has ever been seen, determined from the common MEG standard time. In the 200 years since the downfall of the Machina, Level 2 has gradually begun to regenerate its depleted machines, though the healing process has left countless of Level 2's machine in disconnected and often sometimes non-functional states. It is believed that this is the cause of irregular and disconnected machinery in Level 2, especially of the first scan accounts from the Lost. However, this is believed purely regarded as a mere theory until further evidence is shown. The aiding stragglers. Between 1995 and 2013, a small group lived approximately 35 individuals ran a temporary rehousing and education group designed to home wanderers who arrived in Level 2s directly from the front rooms. Once within camp, the various leaders of the group, who had all been in the Backrooms since as early as 1890, would help educate the individuals on various properties of the Backrooms, such as its entities, its vast catalog of levels, in both term and entity. And as I pointed out in the same year, as the group's demise, this group has used the term animals and worlds, respectively. The various objects individuals can find, and even a few other groups to look out for that existed on the other levels at the time. The long goal of the group was to help freshly no-click individuals find their way across the Backrooms more easily, to help remove their hands-on and dangerous learning curve when it comes to living outside of any group. To complement their altruistic teaching, the aiding stragglers has also honed individuals and gave them small jobs such as scavenging with trained teachers and to gather supplies from Level 2 and other surrounding levels, which can be found in the exit section of the article. No single resident besides teachers stayed within the teaching process. It was to let their students out into the wider Backrooms with enough knowledge to survive on their own. During the first year of MEG's existence, the aiding stragglers were overrun by a large migrating murder. Murder in this context refers to a pack or group of hounds, is referred to as hounds. As many of the MEG's very first members originated from the aiding stragglers, the two groups had a very close-knit connection to one another, and were quick to attempt to save the base from the attack when word of it spread. However, whilst en route, the group of MEG volunteers tasked with pushing back with the hounds were flanked by a wrangler. After regrouping, the base was already deemed lost, with many of its inhabitants being killed or fled during the panic. Whilst not in the same spirit, the few group of original members, which one of the aiding stragglers inhabitants, Austin, as well as many of the willing participants set out to recreate the base idea under the group name of the Survivors, whilst operating under the same ethos as the group they were inspired from. They also was to offer permanent residency. Many people they offered who had just arrived from the front rooms. This allowed them to collect more food supplies and ward off entities. However, from January and March of 2014, they suffered semi-frequent attacks which were later recognized as wretches. Their main issue was resolved and the group resumed normal activities. Followers of Jerry. Although not having the mainstay of presence within level 2 itself, the main base of the followers of Jerry can be easily accessed through any door in the level. Rather obscurely, however, many of the measurements in level 2 operated from this faction in order to draw size-accurate maps that would lure people to their main base. While some of these measurements were often regarded as cruel and inaccurate, so many later were used by MEG for the demo examinations. The MEG. The MEG briefly occupied a small section of level 2, originally created and acted as a secondary base to level 1's main base Alpha. However, a tight space coupled with semi-frequent entities made occupation difficult for a small and expanding MEG. As such, the group moved the base to level 3, whilst which, a still tough level to survive on, was deemed a much better candidate to erect the base, which will later become the organization's third most active and most important location. In the early years of their existence, the MEG still sought out to use level 2 for semi-frequent supply runs and managed to scavenge mechanical tools and assets. They also indulged in an attempt to map out level 2, mainly to function as an experiment for mapping out levels later down the line. The experiments were short-lived. However, after a splinter group known as the BNTG diverged from MEG, practically all interactions between the MEG and level 2 ceased. The BNTG. As one of the biggest inhabitants of level 2, the BNTG has occupied the level ever since its inception in 2016. Primarily, the group's main base of operations has been within office space EL3A. However, the BNTG has previously sought to occupy and adapt more of the level's environment to varying levels of effectiveness. After establishing office space EL3A, their main base of operations, a process which is theorized to have been required heavy terraforming, the BNTG were quick to establish level 2 as a level exclusively occupied only by them, given the lack of any other competition besides the survivors and the followers of Jerry. Whilst ideas were tossed around between the BNTG's higher-ups, which included create safe walkways to hit each to the known exits and attempting to terraform out entire chunks of the level to build homes with. This idea was only scrapped to do with on level 22, which due to a similar adventure turned sour. It was decided that narrow gauge tramway would be constructed along the vast chunk of nearby land close to the office space EL3A. This tramway would be seldom used by its passengers, and would be used instead as a means to transport vast quantities of acquired goods from EL3A to other groups, as well between the bases of BNTG that were already established. After deciding the train would be powered via level 2's electricity, various car batteries and generators were salvaged from level 11 and level 35, as well as various trains from level 82. In order to collect enough units to store and transmit needed electricity to keep the trains running, approximately 20 were created, which all would be powered by various batteries the group acquired. With modifications, these batteries would later become and recharge level 2's natural electricity, which at the time had depleted. After enough drawings and plans which of which routes the train would take were devised, the construction of a vast quantity of level 2's tunnels began. In order to clear room, tunnels that were extraordinarily slim had much of their piping, wiring, and machinery stripped from their walls, later which was repurposed trading materials. Many of these supplies and components were also recycled to recharge these batteries, which aided in preparation for the tramway's completion. This process, despite causing semi-frequent blackouts, whilst attempting to understand the section of wiring attached to the lights, was completed without any real hitch. Afterwards, the more difficult process of acquiring and gouging rails, and initially done by measuring grooves into the track. They were used by upscaling the measurements of the model tracks present on level 111, and subsequently sourcing rails from level 172. Though this caused issues with the track being overly thick, as well as extremely awkward to fit around the 45 or 90-degree corners of the level. Enough modifications to these rails eventually secured the finalization of the track system. Although initially hailed a success, being able to transport all sorts of goods from the various levels in speed up the trades of the minor substantial groups of level 2, usually containing no more than approximately 4 to 6 people within them. Mechanical problems were quick to manifest despite the work being done to widen the hallways. Trains would frequently hit walls while swinging around corners, and were known to derail even though due to uneven gouging of the track and aforementioned tight corners, and general poor track quality. Despite the faults, however, the operation kept running as standard, even though incorporating occasional passenger excursions for those requiring safe transit to other levels. This, as one may expect, added extra strain and usage to the locomotives, as well as the batteries they were operated on. As no new batteries have ever been harvested after the workload of the trains increased, the batteries were needing to be charged more often, sometimes midway through journeys. Not even 2 weeks in the beginning, the haul of passengers and increasing the amount of daily freight services, the entirety of Level 2 short-circuited, according to miscellaneous reports from the organization. When a third, quite possibly faulty battery is plugged into a designated charting area, the entirety of the EL3A is plunged in darkness. Initially, it was believed that the blackout had only affected EL3A itself. However, clearly discovered the lack of power was level-wide after a few organization members set off to find help from BNTG bases on other levels. The blackout ceased all mechanical and electronic operations within level 2, as well as cutting off travel to level 126 and level 811, due to both exits requiring some level of electricity to function. After the machinery failed, the pipes of level 2 began to accumulate the various solids, liquids, and gases they had transported. This, on sparse locations, caused certain pipes to leak, burst, or even leave certain areas with a thick, pungent smell similar to that of rotting meat. Alongside the pipe ceasing operation, the usually abundant lights of level 2 immediately faltered as well as simply deactivated. However, a few of the fluorescent lights are known to have burst due to sudden power outage. During this time, many flashlights were being given to any explorer from any group which would explore level 2. After the word had traveled far enough damage, after a few days, violet lights seemingly began to activate at sparse portion level, resembling a form of soft emergency lighting which aided wanderers in navigating portions of the level. In addition, a select few entrances and exits ceased to work, and some of the previously locked doors in level 2 reopened. This subsequently led to the ability to enter the void rooms, which has unfortunately caused certain wanderers to go missing within them, with a curiosity to see what was in them after the blackout itself ended. Overall, this blackout lasted a total of 2 years, with all life suddenly springing back into level 2 when the main lights reactivated and the pipes began the transmission of anomalous items again. After the blackout, the railway system BNT created was left to the elements, and the group quietly regained its main base in EL3A, after the majority of itself migrated anywhere else during the blackout. Additionally, very few groups have shown interest in occupying level 2 since blackouts, though for a myriad of reasons, from its claustrophobic design to its inherent danger. The main reason occupation of level 2 has been so infrequent is due to the fact that any group, regardless of age, sees a better fit to occupy it elsewhere, whilst the hub of select few levels in mechanical tools. Level 2 has a severe lack of edible foods and medical supplies, with those who do live in level 2 relying on imports or going to other levels for their needed materials. When the lights reignited, virtually all of level 2's machinery ceased functioning, while producing quiet and internal weird noises, as if pieces of it were constructed dislodged and broken In addition, there are still ports in level 2 that are still trapped within a brownout, while having a few lights operational and all machinery and piping quiet. As such, especially in the face of far more habitable levels such as level 11 or 186, many major or minor groups have opted to migrate to levels with much better standards of living as well as better supplies, while the BNTGs still use office space EL3A as their main base of operations. No notable groups have occupied level 2 since blackout. Entities. Due to the extremely explored mapped out nature of level 2, a variety of common and exclusive entities reside on this level. Additionally, due to level 2 being once a social hub level, many entities that are well known in the current day were originally discovered in level 2. To complete the list of entities as well as discovery documents, the creatures that were discovered in level 2 are listed below. Windows. Windows are a relatively rare occurrence on level 2, only appearing at the end of corridors in some cases. Despite their rare occurrences, however, individuals must not approach them. During the blackout, it is known that some individuals used the existing windows as guidelines and markers where one was. So something is also known as cannibal cuisines, which is detailed further on this enemy segment. However, much like the usage of cannibal cuisines, using windows in a helpful manner halted level 2 reactivated, and are now simply considered as a general hazard. Smilers. Whilst having is always part of level 2 ecosystem, smilers, especially in recent years, have been a more common sight, almost becoming the main entity that one can spot in this level, due to their instinctual love for darkness. Smilers were drawn to level 2 after the blackout in droves, and their pre-existing nests and community expanded after levels plunged into darkness. Even after reactivation of level, the entities are yet to fully leave. After the blackout, the BNTJ has been pushed back most of the fires from Office Space EL3A, and by proxy, a lot of the land nearby as well too. No major inhabitants of level 2 and have been trying to set up permanent settlement within it long-term temporarily unadvised. It is encouraged that those who do not wish to stay in level 2 stay nearby Office Space EL3A due to the lack of smilers. Death moths. In direct contrast to smilers, death moths on level 2 have experienced a population decrease within the past 200 years. As death moths are more naturally attracted to light, they existed in droves around level 2 during its fluorescent lights. After the blackout, many death moths left level 2, and once they not clearly become afraid of smilers, they once began to flock back to the level. Over the years that the blackout occurred for, the death moths perhaps became non-existent within level 2, only starting to repopulate once the level began operations again. Death moths have much similar developed to be smaller on level 2, likely from the lack of edible supplies for them to consume, as well as better navigate the narrow corridors. These death moths, as with most, are usually docile in behavior. However, it is not recommended to try and interact at the closest of these creatures, or otherwise antagonize them. Entrances and exits. Level 2, due to how well understood it has become over the last few decades, has had a variety of entrances and exits discovered that lead to other normal levels, sublevels, and enigmatic levels. This list is actually updated, and the entrances are currently known to below. Infamously, level 2 is most accessible from level 1, via traversing down any corridors that appear to go on for longer than most corridors do in the level. Many individuals have also no-clipped into level 2 directly from the front rooms, which is supported by groups such as the Survivors, which allows them to continue their main ethos and work even after the blackout. These exits, whilst not commonly in level 1, are common enough that they are within the main level A's to access level 2, especially those fresh inside the back of level 0. However, there are a large array of other entrances to level 2, which are as follows. Level negative 4.1. Level 2 can be accessed via climbing the small tunnels in level negative 4.1's many large caverns. Level negative 1. Random doors within level negative 1 open level 2. Office Space EL3A. Office Space EL3A exists within certain areas of BNTG occupied at level 2, which can be discovered by either following direct signposts or by following long-defunct railway tracks. As EL3A is one of the BNTG's industrial complexes, trespassing is barred by nodes not affiliated with groups. Level 2.2. Similar to level negative 1's entrance to level 2, individuals can occasionally find doors from the former to the latter. Level 8. Within the level's sprawling and confusing cave system, small air ducts or vents occasionally manifest in the stone walls. Whilst most are too small to climb in, entering ones that are large enough to lead to level 2. Level 11. Entering the doors of random buildings, mainly the ones that lack interiors, have the potential to lead to level 2, among other levels. Level 43. By entering the staff halls of the aquarium, individuals can suddenly appear within level 2 or level 4. Level 84. Touching or no-clipping by virtually any of the terrain and clip park of this section, of 84, for long periods of time may trigger teleportation to level 2. Level 127. Climbing into any crematorium furnaces when the level above level will cause oneself to spontaneously arrive in level 2. Level 141. By climbing any stairs or using any elevator, wanderers can arrive in level 2 as well as a myriad of other levels. Level 158. Entering the subway tunnel within the area station before its train has arrived leads to level 2. Level 173. By entering waterfalls in the level's caves, individuals have a slim chance of entering level 2 as well as multiple other levels. Level 309. By traversing 3 miles down the path, one can arrive within level 2. most notably at a location close to Office Space EL3A. Level 480. Some hallways that connect to various doors of level 480 together can sometimes lead to level 2 instead of your actual target destination. Level 522. By submerging oneself into thick sets of wiring level 522, one can arrive within level 2 when they re-emerge. Level 997. In order to return from level 997, one of the only entrances exists in level 2. Individuals must use a pink door embedded in a tree. Exits. The most well-known, easiest to find, and most commonly used exits to level 2 come in the form of exits to level 1, level 3, and oftentimes even level 4. All of these take the form of unlocked doors. These exits, especially in recent years, are especially easy to spot, as wanderers in the years past often leave signs or engraving on the walls of anomalous doors that lead to these above levels. While it's not accounting for levels 2's exits, a vast majority of ways to go to level 2 come from various anomalous doors that can be spotted semi-frequently. For the sake of categorization, the exits and inspection has been split into multiple parts. Exits via anomalous doors. Level 31, level 127, and level 137. By finding plywood doors in level 2, one can enter level 31 and level 127 in a similar vein. Wooden doors that appear aged can leave level 137 instead. It is currently unknown whether all wooden doors that go to level 31 will eventually decay in level 137, while this theory has been increasingly believed in recent years. Level 70 and 283. Any doors in level 2 that are usually larger than any usual door usually go from the floor to the next floor to ceiling. Will either go to level 70 or level 283. The ones level 70 have the text 70 engraved into them, and the ones level 283 are often painted in rainbow colors. Level 101 and level 126. Some unlocked doors in level go to level 101. Some random rooms that can appear in level 2. In a similar vein, any unlocked doors that have an echoey piano emanating from the other side often lead to 126. Level 141. Opening a metal door and entering it leads to level 141. Level 175 and level 997. Any blue doors in level 2 leads to level 175. By contrast, all pink doors in level 2 leads to level 997. Level 811. Level 811 can be accessed by the following blue pulsating lights and unselect pipes in level 2 to a door with a machine blade embedded into it. Pulling the knife out will take individuals to level 811. During the blackout, all exits to level 811 cease to function, only having a few return to normal levels since levels reactivation. Level 998. That's one of the more common exits. Elevator-like doors lead to level 998. Exits via other methods. The hub. Following the same entrance scheme as suggested on level 1, that being the follow-up trail of corridors that aligns with the Konami code. For more information, look at the third revision for the page of the hub. One can access the hub from level 2. However, the location which to do it is not so officially known by the most main groups, and exits mostly talk between their members. Office Space EL3A. As Office Space EL3A exists directly within level 2 itself, exiting this area will place individuals back into level 2. Make-believe in level 38. Whilst traveling level 2, it has been documented that individuals may suddenly find themselves seamlessly transitioning into either of the two levels. Make-believe is thought to happen far less frequently, however, this may be due to the fact that no one has been going to make-believe has survived, meaning there's far less information to go off of. Level 64. Finding any rooms within level 2's unlocked doors that resemble fully furnished and decorated houses lead to level 64. Level 127. For unknown reasons, many areas of level 2 have become unreasonably hot spots for no clipping into level 127. Much like the exit to level 811, this particular exit ceased to function during the blackout. Level 158 and level 190. Level 902. By traversing the levels for long enough, or by finding a small dugout passageway at perpendicular angles to exit the rest of level 2 layout, individuals will find themselves in level 158 and level 902 respectively. Level 189. By wishing to use the restroom on this level, as well as others wishing to use the restroom on other levels for reasons unknown have a lower rate of entry level, but one can spontaneously arrive in level 189 after interacting with the door after they made the wish.